Finance Committee Joint Budget Review Meetings. This is for fiscal year 2026. This is in person and via Zoom at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Ave, Dayton, Mass. 02715. Tonight's meeting is being recorded. The meeting ID number is 898-4717-0490, and the passcode to join is 350943. Can we please stand, actually have a roll call, please?
Nicole Mello, present.
Mark Pacheco, present.
And Peter Karen, present. Can we please stand for the, you want to do your roll call?
I'm sorry.
No, please, do yours.
Since we do have two members on Zoom tonight, we'll do a roll call.
Rob McKay,
Susan Lauren.
Peter Roach, Tom Arujo,
Tracy Carlson.
Still presiding in
Doug White,
And Jake?
Jake Stebbins.
Thank you.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First up tonight is DR Regional School District. Hi. I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
I believe Mr. Vitacco is going to load some slides for me.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate your service to the town. It means a lot to us as employees of the district, and I know it means a lot to the staff and families. Grateful to be joined tonight by the chair of our school committee, Mr. Andrade, also another one of our school committee members, Mrs. Kuchar, as well as our new district business administrator, Leo Brem. I think it's important to make sure that I mention that tonight is just a snapshot of where we are as of today. Our budget hearing is a week from today, and I will allude to a little bit more information about our budget hearing. But things will change a little bit between now and next Tuesday. Next slide. I am going to get on my soapbox just a little bit. It is unconscionable to me that we can have an average inflation rate of 4.95% over the last 5 years, and the state revenue for our district has increased by less than 1%. I am hopeful that the members of the House of Representatives and the members of the Senate will correct this gross misjudgment on the part of the governor. A statistic was presented to me today. The district budget in 2019 in today's dollars is 25% more than what it was in 2019. Our increases are 16% since 2019. So if you think about the impact of inflation, I think that's a pretty telling story right there. Next slide. One more. So somewhat in the governor's defense, I will say that the Chapter 70 funding formula is antiquated. I do have a petition circulating on town Facebook pages, district Facebook pages, and Senator Lewis's bill is to reconvene the Chapter 70 Funding Formula Commission, and I think that would go a long way. The amount of money that it would cost to reconvene that commission is projected to be $250,000. $250,000 is a lot of money, but when you compare it to a multi-billion-dollar budget for the state, I think it's a drop in the bucket. So I'm hoping that Senator Lewis's bill will pass. I'm grateful to Senator Dooner, to Representative Thurber, and Representative Howitt, who's on the Rehoboth side, who have already told me that they support Senator Lewis's bill. So, next slide. I think one of the things that's extremely important for the community to understand and for all of you to understand is that a major aspect of our budgeting each year is soaring special education costs. Last year, our special education costs represented 26% of the district budget. This year, they represent 24%. We gladly provide these services to these students who desperately need them. But we cannot ignore that at the state level, those costs continue to soar, and the revenue from the state is not commensurate with those increases. Next slide, please. I noticed that when Bristol Plymouth presented their budget last week, they took the opportunity to break out the difference in operations and capital. And so it was suggested to me to present that to you tonight. We are currently at a total budget of 4.08%, but if you do look at it from the standpoint of what the budget increase would be without capital, those fixed costs for roofs, HVAC improvements, and those types of things, our ask is really 2.3%, which would be a 1.62% increase to the town. But still, at the end of the day, where we stand as of now is slightly less than 4.1%, and the assessment to the town would be 4.30%. Next slide, please. So when I was here before the Board of Selectmen a couple of weeks ago, I was asked about level services, and level services is something that's honestly a pipe dream for us. If you look at the bottom row of that table, level services for us in early February was 7.92%. So we immediately start looking at efficiencies. We sit down with all of our budget managers, so that'd be our principals and our department heads, and we start looking for ways that we can cut corners. There are times where we do not backfill retirements. There are times where, based on some vendor changes, we're able to save a little bit of money. But what I presented to the school committee 2 weeks ago was a current increase of 4.08%. We're still working on it. This is just a slide that just gives the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen just a progression of where we've been over time. And if you notice, I did put an asterisk there for years where we had ESSER assistance through federal grants from the COVID. And we've got a couple of very anomalous years in terms of Dighton approaching 10% for their assessment. I am pleased to say that we are less than half of that as of today, 4.3%. But I'm cautiously optimistic that within a week we'll be able to get that a little bit lower. So, next slide, if you will. Keep going, Mr. Fataco, if you don't mind. I changed the order on them a little bit. Keep going. One more.
No, don't go back. Once we go forward, that's it.
That's all right. I can still talk to him. One more. Okay. So I did make reference to our budget hearing. Our budget hearing is 1 week from today, March 25th, 6:30 p.m. At the Dighton-Rehoboth Regional High School auditorium. We are constantly refining the current 4.08 proposal. It dropped a couple of hundredths when we finalized our health insurance. There is one final set of efficiencies that we typically employ in mid to late February. With Leo being new to the position, we are starting to get into that now that it's mid-March. And I'm cautiously optimistic that when I present my final presentation to the school committee next Tuesday, that the district-wide budget will be less than 4%, and that the town assessment will be less than 4%. How much less than 4%, I can't say at this point, but we are consistently working on efficiencies to try to make this as palatable for each of our towns as possible. You can't go backwards?
Up to the selectmen.
You can't go backwards? Thank you. That's the only slide that we really need. As I said, I'm cautiously optimistic that a week from today, district-wide budget will be less than 4%, and the town assessment projection will be less than 4%. All I want the community to remember, and I did say this when I was before the selectmen a couple of weeks ago, our staff has been decimated the last 2 years. We proposed 12.5 cuts in FY24 and proposed 20.5 cuts last year for a total of 33 cuts. This year, we actually have a net staffing gain. We're not going to backfill 2 retirements, but we do need 3 new positions. We have 2 class size situations where we're flirting with being out of compliance with the Teachers Association contract. And then we also have 1 position that we're adding for special education because we're dangerously close to being out of compliance for caseloads in special education. So we are razor thin. There's an article that's coming out in the Taunton Gazette tomorrow. It's actually online today, but I think it'll be published tomorrow, where I basically compared it to a rubber band. As far as our class sizes and our staffing is concerned, we've stretched the rubber band about as far as we can go. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to maintain this staffing level going forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, anything could come below the 4% is phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. I personally, and I'm not speaking for the other 2 selectmen, don't care where the costs come from. I don't mean it to be callous, but if it's administration or teachers or capital, it's your budget. You're the ones that have to live with it.
Right.
We have to live with the overall budget, percentage-wise and dollar figure-wise. So
Fortunately, the efficiencies that we typically put in place in mid-February, and like I said, we're a little bit behind, will not have any impact on staffing and will not have any impact on programs. So.
great. I'm sure students and parents are very happy about that. It's one of the biggest complaints that we get about the school system, not the school system itself, but about the schools, is the amount of teachers that get cut and programs that get cut. But it's the same parents that don't want to have their taxes go up. So it's a catch-22 for us. Nicole, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
First, I just want to thank you for getting the slides to us prior to this presentation. That's always helpful. I did have a question. I've seen online you guys mentioning that you have night classes, or night classes are going to be starting. Is that
Some adult continuing education.
that bring in additional income? Like, how does that work? Are they paying for these classes, or is this just a service you're providing?
Folks will have to pay for any sort of adult continuing education classes. It'll be, maybe basic automotive maintenance as we continue to get it off the ground. I'd love to see like our early childhood ed teachers teach a babysitting course and maybe even some first aid certification. Right now, we're trying to build as much interest as possible, so there's no real profit margin for us. It's if we're going to be changing oil, then obviously there are going to be some fees in terms of someone getting into the program. If after 2-3 years we can get it to really thrive, then maybe we would see some profit off of it. But I'm not thinking that's going to happen anytime in the next 2 years.
No, I didn't think so. I just thought it was a great idea. Additional services. Are always-
I tell the school committee all the time that there are so many wonderful things that are going on in our high school. If we can find ways to get the community into our building, even if it's just to bring your car in for an oil change or to take an evening course, you'll see what we see every single day, which is wonderful things going on in the high school.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mark, do you have anything you want to add?
Just 2 questions. The $1 million capital expenses that was shown, could you just touch upon what those look like and what are some of the projects in the pipeline?
So we're still paying off some MSBA roof replacements. We had a boiler project that is still ongoing. The solar arrays are still being paid off. I think those are hopefully going to be paid off in 2035 or so. But that's where the bulk of that comes from.
Okay. And my second question is just kind of for my own knowledge. When you work on the budget with the school committee, do they have access to like a line-by-line item, like itemized budget, like similar to what we do in town? I can't remember if I asked you that last time.
Yes, they do. Yep.
That's all I have. Thank you.
You guys have that, right?
No, I don't have a line-by-line for the school department.
They don't have the binder for the school department budget?
We can provide it, but we
Is
haven't.
that normal? Okay. Yeah,
Not in my tenure.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's all to you guys.
You had mentioned, I think, last year that you guys were looking at expanding the tech ed side of things, and the state reimburses differently on that side.
Right.
Have you had any chance of expanding that yet?
We did. We submitted a letter of intent for criminal justice program and for a medical or health assisting program. The state kind of pressed pause on that. I think some of the changes in the commissioner's office kind of threw some of their staffing for a loop. But we had a meeting with our CTE liaison about a month ago. And when that window opens to submit in the fall, it's a Part A application. And if the Part A application gets approved, then you can submit Part B. So we're going to submit Part A for criminal justice and for medical and health assisting.
I had been asked on the solar arrays, if you could just explain that those are now up and running.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. And by the way, thank you for your service to the Finance Advisory Committee. I appreciate that. I meant to mention that in my opening and I forgot. Yes, we have these solar arrays that, to Selectman Pacheco's point, are contributing to our capital year over year. And we found out that they were not operating anywhere near, effective efficiency. I was approached by a colleague of mine in Attleboro who has a drone service where they assess the effectiveness of your solar arrays. He came in and did a relatively inexpensive assessment for us, and we found out that we're grossly inefficient as far as those are concerned. Leo has done a fantastic job along with Damian Preston, who's our facilities director, to get those repaired. We now have a monitoring system. I get the emails just like Leo gets them and just like Damian gets them, even sometimes when there's snow on them and they're not operating at maximum efficiency. So we're confident that over time we're going to start seeing more profit from the solar arrays. And we also, the school committee had the presence of mind to direct us to get a maintenance contract as well.
Not to interrupt, when you say a income off of this, how much will you anticipate?
Leo, do you happen to remember?
So we have some projections. They come off as far as credit off of our utility bills.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're never fully, 100% efficient, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but the projected over the 10 years is north of $2 million.
Okay. Thank you.
One quick thing, Mr. Roach's question. The full line-by-line, or Mr. Kahn's question, the full line-by-line budget is on the district website if you wanted to get it. Sorry we didn't provide that in your packet, but it is available there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's fairly easy to find, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
you just go to school committee 20 budget hearing, and then it says 26, FY 26 school committee budget PDF.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, actually, I'll let you guys, do you guys have any questions for Jake, or I don't know if Doug's still there, or?
I'm here.
Okay, are there any questions for the superintendent?
I have two questions. How are we doing on our, the number of students that are from Dayton that are eligible to be in the district that are choosing to go to DR as opposed to other schools? What's our percentage of that pie that we're getting to go to the DR high school?
So that's a great question. I looked into that in the fall for the school committee. In FY 23, we were at about 66% of what I would call a conversion rate. Last year we were at 69%, and this year we're at 72%. So it's not massive gains. Our high school enrollment is up by about 14 students from last year, but the message, the narrative is getting out there. The positivity is definitely spreading. And so we actually have 65 more students in the district than what we had on October 1st of 2024. We had an infusion through a new pre-K classroom that we opened. So we're hopeful that the foundation budget for next year will be a little higher based on an increased enrollment.
Out of those 70, the 65, how many of them have moved into the district compared to what students have moved out with going to BP or Bristol Aggie? Is that number all because of students deciding to stay here?
No, part of it is like we opened a new pre-K program.
Okay.
So we opened a new pre-K classroom, I should
Yeah.
say. But I don't have any more specifics than
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I know he had a second question, I believe.
Yeah, second question is, as far as the 2.5%, you know that the town was unsuccessful in being able to break the 2.5. So if you were to have to bring your budget down to 2.5 or below, and you went through your line-by-line itemization, if you ranked ordered those things, would you be able to take the most important ones to keep and eliminate the least important ones to get to that 2.5?
If we had to get to 2.5, are you talking about 2.5 overall or 2.5 for the town's assessment?
2.5 for the town's assessment.
So 2.5 for the town's assessment actually is pretty consistent with what the district's overall assessment is. So that would mean that the district assessment overall would have to get down to 2.5 or maybe 2.75. That's over $1 million. 60% or so of our budget is based on salaries. So we would we'd have to prioritize cutting salaries. First place that I would go would be those 3 new positions that I had made reference to earlier. The 2 that will help us with class sizes on the K through 8 level and 1 for special ed compliance. So that's where I would start, but then I'd have to start looking at other places where we could cut staff.
Yeah, I only ask because we've all had to look at those numbers in every department within the town and have either no increase or less than 2.5 increase.
Right, and when I came before the selectmen a couple of weeks ago, I do completely understand that perspective, but given the fact that we are 32 in the hole in terms of the last 2 fiscal years, I'm just hopeful that folks can keep that context rather than just a year-over-year perspective.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Thank you.
Jake?
Yeah, I have a question. You had referenced the 2019 budget, comparing it to now, which I think is an interesting comparison because that was prior to COVID craziness, right? Where there was tons of federal funding flowing into the schools. I guess from a staffing perspective, and I guess you could talk about ratios. Where do you sit from a teacher to student ratio when we compare to 2019? And I'm also curious to understand the student to administrator ratio as compared to 2019 as well. Do you have any data or can you speak on that at all?
I wasn't here in 2019. What I can tell you is that the 33 proposed cuts over the last couple of years have changed that ratio. There are a couple of the new positions that we're proposing for this year are because of the fact that we're getting close to contractual compliance, which I believe is a class size of 26 at the K through 8 level. And we also tackled the right sizing aspects of the staffing at the high school immediately upon my arrival. And so the high school has probably taken the most significant percentage of those cuts. But that's not hard and fast data that I have in front of me going back to 2019.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm really am posing the question because I'm trying to understand. You know, I think comparing the 33 cuts over the last 2 years, like I think a lot of that is the result of, you know, we had a lot of hiring because we had a lot of additional money coming into the district from the federal government, which is, and the state, which is, you know, unfortunately gone now because COVID, you know, is not happening anymore, right? So I'm just trying to understand from that perspective. That's why I was, you know, encouraged when you started talking about comparing this year to 2019, because I think that's kind of the last normal year, and I think we're approaching normalcy again, you know, from a additional funding perspective. So that's why I was asking. Anything you could provide in that would be fantastic. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I understand it a little bit more clearly now. I will say that, you know, some of the decisions about the federal ESSER funds were made before my arrival. I will say it was probably 50% devoted towards salaries, and the other 50% was for technology and other support services for our students. So, it wasn't like the 33 cuts represented the departure of the federal funding.
Okay, thank you. No question.
Thank you.
On the pre-K classroom that was added, we've talked about the money following students. Is there any state or federal funding that comes with the pre-K classroom, or is that parent funding?
The pre-K is the parents have to pay if the students are general ed. If it's special ed, it is a part of our.
Intervention,
Yes,
and that is covered by the state? Or some?
part of it is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the question that is probably more for Leo. One of the things we've been looking at is the benefit and payroll tax costs involved with the payroll in the town. So to ask you directly, do you guys in the town it's roughly 21% of payroll? Would that be the same with you guys?
Leo?
Just want to understand the question.
So in Dayton, the benefit and tax cost is roughly 21% of payroll.
It's in that ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in that ballpark. Yep, it is.
Thank you.
No problem.
And I have just one more, which I'm going to ask to you only because the microphones are this way. But I'm curious if the school committee members have received phone calls regarding budget issues from the townspeople as well.
Nope.
Nope. Thank you.
One more question. When is the contract up for the teachers?
June 30th of this year.
This year? Okay.
So we're going into negotiations soon.
All right, thank you.
But Mr. Roach, to your point, we would welcome anyone to come to the budget hearing next Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
All right, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bristol Aggie, we're online?
We're here. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Sorry for our absence today in person. We just came back from the State House today. It was an Ag Day at the State House, so we just coming up this time. I'm going to present. The screen is blank. I don't see anybody on video, so I'm just going to do our best to try to keep contact and information purposes as we go through the budget itself. So for the, on the call myself is Derek Costin, the superintendent of Bristol Aggie, and then also is Samantha Stone, our business manager here at Bristol Aggie. So just to give a preliminary review for our projected revenue, at this time the preliminary Chapter 70 numbers and regional transportation numbers has been released. Our foundation budget here at the school for Bristol Aggie has gone up 4.65% from $10,653,000 to $11,148,000. During the FY25 budgeting process, the original county contribution for FY25 was decreased by $658,232. We've had conversations with our county commissioners. The county contributions decrease also indicates the current revenue status of the county's overall budget. Upcoming for the year, for tuition for in-county, specifically the impacts for Dayton, we've increased our student population for in-county from 511 students to 531. It's an increase of 20 students. And at this time, we're holding an increase for our student, tuition increase for $400, where the tuition would be set at $4,417. Our debt assessment for the upcoming year remains the same for per pupil. That assessment is at $5,579.66. Just to kind of give a little bit of a deeper dive into the processes right now, we're in the coordination of our payroll. We, at this upcoming year, are in contract negotiations with our teachers, so we do have a set confidential number in place, but our budget is being held at about a 4.91% increase on overall proposal for our contract. So we've done some gains on our accounts payable, which is our overall operating expenses. In fiscal year 25, our budget had increased by 7.21%, about $295,000 for our operating expenses. Ms. Stone has done an excellent job with the department heads and the district administrators about setting the standard on the FY26 budget. We were at 4.19%, and she's had a reduction over the last month to 3.23%. So it's an overall reduction that we have in place at 3.23%. Our largest expenses are coming in on core projections, which make up about a 16% increase in the overall active employee health insurance. We're holding at 16% at this time. We're hearing ranges anywhere between 9 and 16% for healthcare increases. We were hit mid-year with a 20% increase on the retirees for the medics plan, and we're holding a 16% for next year for the overall insurance plan. Our campus insurance for property values, as you can tell by the increases of our property and the amount of share new buildings and construction, has increased by 10% for this upcoming year, and there's a 5% increase in utilities. We are showing some gains now as we've had our first year associated to the solar projects on the CSE facility, which is our science building, and then our dairy barn, which has now produced enough energy in that facility for the dairy barn to be net zero. We're seeing some savings at around $19,000 a month and across the entire utilities of our campus. So we hope to be able to have that really amortized over the whole year now that we're in our first year. And so for our last piece of it, I think the town of Dayton, just to be made aware of it, your increase for your total students for this year for FY26, as you know, we do bill in arrears. You have 35 students that will be joining us for this upcoming year with the tuition rate set at $4,417, the debt assessment at $5,979.66. Your total expenses for tuition and debt is $363,883.10 for the upcoming year. So we're continually working with our Board of Trustees to review our budgetary process. We're in the first stages and rounds of discussions with them, and we should have a budget implemented in place for their review and vote by May 1st.
Thank you. Nicole, do you have anything you want to add at this point?
That 35 students, I want to understand, is that just, did you say that was incoming, or that's collectively what you have?
That's what you have collectively at
Okay.
Bristol Aggies. So, yep, 35 for October 1 numbers of last year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mark, do you have anything at this point?
No, thank you.
Peter?
Any question? No. Good. Jake or Doug? Nope.
Yeah, just one question. The 16% healthcare increase. Are you guys fully self-insured? Are you in a captive? I mean, are you fully insured, level fund? Like, what does that look like?
So our program right now is obviously through the county. We're in a collaborative with Maya.
Okay.
Thank
I
you,
don't have
Derek.
any questions.
What? No more for you, Jake? Thank you, Derek.
No,
You're welcome.
I don't have any.
Move on to F1.
Thank
Guys
you.
all
Have a
set?
good night.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, thank you for the ability for us to be able to present. If you have any questions, please, of course, don't hesitate to reach out.
and are you? I don't know if you guys at the town hall are aware. Are you purposely not sharing your screen? Because I wasn't sure if we were putting your camera on. There you are.
Sorry about that. I couldn't see anything before.
Oh, wait, now you're gone again. Oh, there you go. All right.
No, that's fine.
Sorry, would you like to share one up
I'm
there?
outside. I have this.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Good evening. Has anybody had a chance to look over our budget?
The line by line, yes.
And I just wanted to recap a little bit on this beautiful presentation that our office manager prepared for us. I apologize that you do not have that.
That's okay.
And we just wanted to let the board and the finance committee know that this past year, we were very fortunate that within the last 2 years, we acquired over $200,000 in grants, and that's what really has been running our supportive day program and helping to subsidize our Council on Aging budget here and there. And if you can follow along, that the grants, one of the grants that we did receive, which was a hybrid grant for $50,000, updated all of our technology, the infrastructure, the fees. Also, it provided for an outreach coordinator for a year, and also paid for our strawberry vine mailing. And we replaced all the blinds that were over 20 years old in our facility. Our supportive day grant, which was for $126,000, also helped immensely in updating our 3 bathrooms that we, one ADA compliant, so we updated 3 bathrooms. We also were able to purchase a medical equipment storage shed, which is not arrived. We're waiting to receive that. We bought new chairs for our dining areas and many other things. We also received a patio grant for $25,000, which we will be able to do that beautiful job in the back, also with the help of the Dayton Highway Department and many other town entities who helped us in finalizing that big project. We were also awarded a $6,000 grant, which we just bought a brand new refrigerator and freezer because ours were very, very, over 20 years old. And prior to, or rather like in the first few months of me taking the position, Senator Pacheco granted us with a beautiful $10,000 earmark, which also helped us tremendously to get going. Right now, we were able to work off of our funded, town-funded budget, and we're doing very well so far this year, not going over, we're maintaining under what we were allowed. And we hope going forward that we can do the same with also help of other grants that we still do have on hand, which are our annual formula grants that come from the Department of Health and Human Services, Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And we have a little bit of money there because we were using these other grants that we acquired, we were able to save that for this need that's coming up this year, next few years coming up. And we did process the budget according to TA's directions, and also Serena, the town accountant, and we filled it out the way that we were told to with the cuts. And then when we sat down with them, they did add a couple of line items that we had brought to zero, but they upped it. They felt that we could bring the equipment repairs and maintenance, which we had budgeted zero. They said that we should budget for 500, as we can always use it to pay for our IT personnel, gentlemen, who is costly whenever we have a problem. And also the communications line for $2,400, which will help pay for our Vine, stamps and our newsletter, part of our newsletter as prime time. Our supportive day care, our supportive day budget is helping to pay part of that mailing, which is a little expensive, and we're kind of sharing costs as both departments are in the same building and utilizing the same printer, we share everything, so they're helping to supplement the town budget. And our supportive day program is doing wonderful. We are bringing in a good amount of income and putting out less in expenses, so we have a little cushion. And we will continue to utilize the money for the purposes that it was intended, and to also help with the building that it is occupying.
Phenomenal job,
Thank you.
as always,
Thank
with
you.
your budget and equally with the grants that you get.
Thank you very much.
I'm so blown away by what you do. Sincerely, between what you do every day to coming through with your budget the way we asked, the town administrator asked you to, as well as the grants. What do you have up your sleeve for next year's grants?
Well, I do have about.
Some carrying over.
We have some carryover, we're gonna be carrying over. We hope that we can, most of our grants have to be expanded by, the grants that we acquired last year by March 31st of
Okay.
this month. And going forward, we will utilize the formula grants, which are the grants that we receive from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And we have two still full ones there?
1.5.
We have 1.5 still, and they've already paid, they gave us only half of fiscal year 2023. They only gave us half of that, $25,000, and we are in the process of doing an annual report to get our next funding, which the state is running behind, I believe, six months to a year. So we do have enough money to bring us through this following year. And I have also applied for another 3 grants. And I did get one denial. That was hard. We did get one denial, and there's still, I believe, 3 out there waiting for.
Great.
We will continue to try to get money from other sources.
Sure.
You're doing a great job.
Absolutely. The Strawberry Vine, do you get money from the ads that are in there?
No, the ads help to pay for the printing.
Well, that's what I mean.
Correct.
It offsets
Yes,
the
yes.
printing.
Yeah, we get it printed for free.
Okay.
Because the people who print it for free for us do the advertising,
Okay.
the advertisements themselves.
Right.
So
So you
they're
don't,
kind of hands off on it, prints for free, they get the money from the advertisers.
so you have you've talked before about the 2,400 being part of
The postage.
the
So we
postage.
have to
So
mail it.
that's all that is postage?
Yeah, it's about $800 a month.
Wow.
It gets mailed to,
17, I have that.
it gets mailed to everybody in town who is 60 and older. It's 1 per household, so there's no duplicates. We do have an electronic version where people can choose to sign on to that, and we remove them from the mailer. But we're not quite at that generation yet that mainly prefers it electronic.
Sure.
A lot really want the hard copy.
Okay.
And we do update that mailing every year. I'm sure you remember me reaching out to you for the census for anybody who's 60 and older, and we tweak it
Right.
to be 1 per household. But it is definitely a costly expense, which was very thoughtful that you guys thought to put in. It was 3 months into the town budget for that. And then we'll use some of our annual formula grant. Bella had discussed it, just to explain what that is. Every year, every council on aging in Massachusetts gets what's called an annual formula grant. It's based off of how many people are in your town that are 60 and older, and it's $14 per resident 60 and older. So every year it fluctuates obviously a little bit, but our average is kind of within the $22,000 to $25,000 range per year. So it pays literally every single program we offer, so that doesn't burden the town. So it incurs all of our instructor costs.
Great.
And our outreach coordinator moving forward.
Our elder population, 60 and over, keeps growing. We've, since the 2020 census, we've grown about 400.
Wow.
People have, either they've moved in or turned 60 and so
Yeah.
forth.
And the number from 2024 was 2,214 residents are 60 and older. And we mailed to about 1,400 households.
Okay. Thank you. Nicole, do you have anything?
I don't have a question. I have an observation I just wanted to share. I was watching you present, and I was thinking about the first time you came before us and presented, and how nervous you were. And I was watching you, and I was thinking, who is this woman? Like,
I'm still nervous.
No.
You've been an actress at
you've
it
done
now.
an amazing job in a short amount of time, and I'm personally very proud of you and your team. And I just wanted to make that. We don't always realize our own personal growth, so you did great.
Thank you.
Mark?
I echo the comments made by my colleagues, and thank you for beautifying that building and your leadership with the grants and just running your department. I appreciate
Thank you
doing
very
it, the
much.
whole team.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the great presentation.
As thankful as you are to me, I am thankful to my team also, because it was a team effort that was, helped us to get to where we are today.
Question for you. In the past, there have been issues with collecting fees. You guys, where do you know where that stands?
For the day program?
Yeah.
No, there's a new invoicing system that's in place. So everything is actually up to date. And then if there is a month that is out of balance, that gets put onto the next invoice. So everything is actually up, on page, technically slide 6, but page, I guess, 3. Our average monthly income is $7,140, so Primetime operates strictly off of attendance fees. They get billed every month. That expense then pays out salary, Hannaford bills, office supplies, all the odds and ends. And as Bella stated, moving forward into these more challenging years, we're going to use that to offset a little bit more of our paper toner. They're going to actually completely absorb the crystal rock because they use more of the water. We were just trying to be creative about how we can keep, we were trying to present obviously the under 2.5 when we submitted our budget. So we were looking at ways to lean into that extra cushion that we've been having a good average for the past couple of years with attendance. Income, outcome, expenses,
So out of that 7,000, what you bill every month, you collect the majority?
Oh, all of it, yes.
All of it, good.
Yes.
Okay. In the
Yep.
past, I know it's really,
Yeah, so I heard.
thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Are the numbers going up with participation?
For
Yes.
the day program, yes.
When we
And
opened,
the community too.
we opened up.
All the programs you offer, every
Yeah,
single one,
the
yeah.
numbers. I believe we opened up with 8 attendees, and we've been steady at 16 to 18. And our cap is 20, so it's pretty good.
Very good. And we've had to put a wait list on our Drums Alive class for the community, because that, our instructor only teaches up to 10. She has the supplies for 10, and we have a wait list for Friday's class. So sign up quick when you get your newsletter.
Anybody else, any questions on? No. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Board of Assessors. $141.
Thank you.
Oh, there you go. Stephanie Schechter, Town Assessor. I'm assuming you just want me to go through my line items, any explanations on those?
I guess you really don't have to go through line by line unless somebody has a question for it.
It's kind of straightforward. We were able to cut some funding that we needed last year for our appraisals of the Dayton Power and Aquaria. We have some things that haven't changed. Some of our dues have gone up. But
The Pitney Bowes machine is a postage, right?
yes,
So you don't share it with the,
we do. That's a new thing now for us this past year. Our office, we always purchase envelopes with stamps already on them because
Okay.
we had a problem back in the day. I don't know, the
what happened there. But,
Sure.
so now we're part of it. I just haven't gotten a bill yet, so I really don't know. I don't think it's gonna be too crazy, because we
Okay.
still had some envelopes, so, yeah, so
You guys have your own machines and that.
we have the machine that we use in the, copy room with everyone else in the,
Paul hasn't gotten your bill yet.
that's the bill I haven't received yet. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So the 3,200 annually is what he bills you?
No,
Paul does?
no, 32.
Under rentals and leases. Current lease is 3,200 annually.
I don't have it, that's not,
What number are you under?
Oh, I'm on 146, that's why. I'm sorry.
I'm like, I don't have that.
No, I got it. Sorry about that.
That's okay. At least we got that out about
Yeah,
that stamp machine.
that makes it easier.
Question on the professional and technical.
Yep.
Is that the education classes, is that in a year where there are no changes in the assessors, that's the education still?
I'm the only one that has their certification,
Okay,
so,
so that's for your education.
mine, but anyone else, like my assistant just took the 200, it's required in our new, job descriptions. So it's not, and they're Zoom, and they're still $550 for these classes that are Zoom. It's just a crazy amount, so, but our, local, chapter, BCAA, our Bristol County, I'm vice president on that, but we're trying to get classes for free so we can get the credits within the 2 years, so we're working on that. So hopefully, we could cut back on that if we needed to, as long as we just get some programs. We had one on Thursday, and it's canceled, because not enough people signed up for it, but, we're working toward it. We have a 2-year plan of what's coming up, so.
Until the word gets out there that you're offering them free of charge.
Right. And if we have, people outside of our, Bristol County, we're gonna put a little heftier fee on them, because that's what they do, so we're gonna continue it. Nothing's for free anymore, so. Actually, we are gonna be hosting, a solar, what's his name? The lawyer that does solar. What's his name? The one that goes to our meetings. The lawyer that does solar.
Yeah, I know you.
I can't even think of,
Is it Mark Borowski?
no.
Is it Hendricks?
I'll think of it before I'm done. I don't know. Maybe I have a paper left over in here. He's gonna be, coming, and we're gonna host our local assessors and everyone to come and learn about solar and all the new taxing that's coming up with the pilots and things like that, so. Yeah, and I'm on fire again. It's like second time today, overheating.
Can I ask you a question that is probably, I'm sure Nancy's probably gonna jump in on this one, but in the past, Nancy has recommended set aside for the pilot money. Would that be something that the elected members would do, or would that be something that, or recommend, or would that be something that you would be recommending?
I think that we have talked about it. Maybe Nancy will come up, because I think we can put it in an account that only you can use for specific things, but I think we haven't really sat down to discuss. Yeah.
The recommendation is still in from the Department of Revenue. The good news is in order to do this years ago, you needed a home rule petition and legislation. The law changed, so that money comes in now and goes into estimated receipts and closes out to free cash. You don't need permission from the state to set that money aside. The recommendation is still there. The biggest problem is for long-term planning. When it comes into the account and ends up in free cash, if you continue to spend it for operational expenses, the clock is ticking on all those pilot agreements, and the expenses are going up. And when they're gone, those people living in this town are in for a big shock, because there's no guarantee that pilots will be renewed. So that's why they keep saying you need to put the money aside. Not all of it, obviously, but you should have a significant plan to set the money aside. Town of Rehoboth did this from the beginning. They actually did the home rule petition and all that other stuff. So when they were able to buy Francis Farm, buy that police building from Dartmouth, they had money already set aside from all those solar farms. So that wasn't a direct impact on the residents. And also, they're not spending all that pilot money that's still coming in for operating expenses. So that liability is just out there. So if you can put it into whether it's capital stabilization or the regular stabilization account, I know in the past, all the finance committees that I served on, and as a selectman, each year we tried to put money into savings, which is what I'm talking about. But I will be presenting a pilot agreement at the June annual town meeting, finally, for Brook Street Solar, which they've pulled twice. And this pilot agreement for 20 years is in excess of $800,000. The big one that we have is the big farm behind Arujos, MACS. That's $1.2 million over 20 years. Obviously, we've got other pilots that we're collecting payments on that aren't that big. But with those coming on board, I mean, we're going to start billing them as of July 1st of this year, which brings them into FY26. This kind of planning has to be looked at, because if something isn't done, future generations are going to be in tough shape. And for the young families that are here now, they're going to be around for 20 years, and it's going to be a big whack. So it's really something that needs to be looked at. And as I said, Department of Revenue urges that towns do this long-term planning. So, and I know money's tight, but just something to think about.
Is that something that the Board of Assessors would recommend to the selectmen, or would that be just a general?
I think the Board of Assessors, from the discussions that I've been involved with, and there's been some changes in the board, obviously, support doing this, because we're not saying put it all aside like another community did, but put something aside, and don't eat the whole apple every year, because you're going to run out of apples, and you're going to be hungry, and it's going to be painful. Actually, it should be a joint effort by assessors, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, because if we all agree we need to put aside, pick a number, then when we go to town meeting, it's going to be a special article. I'm going to ask the voters to approve it, and we're going to have to explain to them why we want to put money into this account. In the past, we've been able to put money aside because we've had it. But now we're looking at, let's say, some extra money, and now's the time to start planning this. So, and not just say, well, if we have enough, actually sit down and say, we've got to do it and we need a number. The number can vary each year, but we really need to do it.
So just so for you guys, for the new members, these pilot agreements, they're 20-year agreements, but they front load the revenue.
Okay.
So we get more today, but as things go, it diminishes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get they're front end loaded. So for the first, on a 20-year agreement, the first 10 years, the town gets approximately 60% of the total taxes. So when I say 1.2 million over 20 years, or 800 and some thousand over 20 years, those aren't equal payments. By the way, some communities do that. They just divide it by 20, and those solar farms pay the same amount every year. But our reasoning is, when they're brand new, they're producing maximum electricity. So we want the money then.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Nancy, are we collecting from any of the pilot programs at this point?
Oh, yeah, we've got,
Two,
we've got one way down William Street.
that's the little one, right?
No, the big one. The one
Oh,
that,
There's a two-phase one, that's that one.
2320 Williams. It's almost into Somerset or Swansea. It's almost down to Shapslaw Road.
Yeah, yeah.
We have on Richmond Hill, we have DG Dayton 1 and 2. So there's an entrance off of Elm Street right near the car property. But that driveway accesses too because there's one out back. So we are collecting from a very small one on William Street that's almost across from the old Arujo's farm stand.
Bob Elliott.
Oh,
Yes. And let me think. The one on the corner of, actually on two streets, Tremont and Middle.
That's the one I was gonna ask you about.
Yeah,
That's new, that's gonna be new for 26.
that's going to be coming on.
Cabral's.
Yeah, Cabral and Racine.
Yeah.
And then the two
so-
Arujo ones, and then Brook Street, so there'll be 5 new.
Yeah, but for right now,
1, 2,
William Street, 2 on William Street, the big
Yeah.
one, I say big one, not as big as Arujo's, behind Arujo's. That is also ISM Solar.
and then the one on.
They don't have a pilot agreement, so we're just taxing them based on the assessed valuation that our consultant has come up with. But, so for pilots, there's William Street, 2 on Elm, and then we've got these others coming on. So the thing is, when you approve one of these at the June town meeting, in order for us to get it on for a vote in June, it has to be actually listed on the tax roll by January 1st, prior to that June town meeting. So if you get one that comes on for July 2nd, they get like a free year, okay? So the only one we had that was questionable was Brook Street, and we really worked hard with the building commissioner to make sure that he could give us a letter indicating, even though that one is not fully connected to the power grid yet, that the items that had to be taken care of in order for us to get it on the tax roll for January 1st were minor. And so that one is the one that's on for January 1st that will be coming up in June at the annual town meeting. That will be the end of the solar farm pilot agreements unless the one on William Street down near the Somerset Swansea line decides they want one. They've asked before, then they pull back, and then they ask. They have not gone to town meeting. Well, the rejects, the ones I've had to have tabled were relatively, I mean, they were Brook Street. Plain and simple.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Conservation Committee. Commissioner, you guys are up.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Do you have questions, or do we,
I think the biggest thing is gonna be the 2250 for the clerical work.
Oh,
That's,
Well-
other than that, your basic budget.
so, in fact, we ended up reducing our budget for clerical because we removed our part-time clerical worker, and now we only have Kendra, who does the minutes for us. But I just wanted to, can we back up a little
Sure.
bit, Peter?
As
I just
much as
wanted
you
to
want.
kind of introduce ourselves. I don't know if the finance committee understands conservation and what we do. Do you know what we do?
Your wetlands and
Wetlands and waterways, so we enforce the Wetlands Protection Act and our local bylaws. So We review every permit application that has anything to do with wetlands in the town. And, so I've been here, I was here previously years and years ago, but I've been here since Charlie retired, which is around 2000. So I came in 2021. But, basically, we have to review every application for the performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act and our local bylaw to make sure that there's stormwater protection, there's wildlife protection, but not only that, it's to protect our groundwater, our drinking water, public and private drinking water. So we deal with a lot of engineers, consultants, and lawyers, because we have quite a bit of violations that we've been dealing with as of late. But so then you can kind of see where maybe our professional and technical budget and that kind of budget has increased over the years, because we're dealing with appeals. If we deny certain projects, specific projects in town, most likely developer appeals our decision because they still want to build their subdivision. Jim's been on for 50 years, unpaid, and
I've been on since 2021.
unpaid. So, and I am the only staff member besides Kendra, who I have, who does the minutes for us once a month. I'm the only staff member, and I'm only 25 hours a week. So.
Okay, that's where the 25 comes in as an important number, because since this budget was submitted to you, the commission reviewed the time that Lisa puts in, and in many cases it goes well beyond the 25 hours a week. I know when I start getting phone calls on or texts on a Friday or a Saturday and sometimes on a Sunday because some engineer or botanist has called her. The commission at our February meeting decided to request an additional 5 hours, which is not in the initial proposal that you have. That 5 hours additional time, because it would bring her up to 30 hours, or an increase of very close to $11,302 per year. Now, you might say, well, that's going to bring us over. Well, the paper that you have is a reduction of over 10% in what we requested last year. And with this 11,000, it would actually bring us up over last year's budget by a few percent. Not extraordinary, but a little bit. But what we want to make note of to you people is that at our last town meeting, the townspeople voted to amend, at our request, the conservation bylaws, which has a fee structure. And this fee structure will be bringing in additional funds. It's estimated that if we have 24 filings, it'll bring in roughly $5,000 to $7,000 extra a year. And, we wish to use that, whether it goes towards salary or whatever, but we'll need some time because right now it will go into town funding, I believe, rather than into the conservation budget itself, into our account, which we will have to have it voted upon this coming June, I believe.
Special revenue account.
So we'll have to have an account. So right now we're asking you that in addition to what you see before you in print, that we add an additional 5 hours into Lisa's time per week, which would be $11,302.20. I think that's what Paul had calculated.
Yeah.
$11,302, which is a little bit more than last year's budget. I think it's let's see, $5,000 more than last year's budget. And yet, if we compare that to, let's say, the Board of Health, their budget, which, and, you know, is $128,000 a year, and we are not requesting, you know, this is anywhere near there. This is still about half. And Lisa is responsible for I don't know, field work, for dealing with, like, as she said, with lawyers and botanists and
Administrative.
engineers and sometimes just nonsense cases that people call in on. There's also the enforcement orders, and this is a lot of field work that she has to go out and observe. And 25 hours really a
Well,
week
you
is...
forgot one.
What?
The administrative, so all the bureaucracy and the paperwork all has to come through me too. I have to check all the boxes on all that as well. So, someone has to be checking it, otherwise it's an incomplete application.
So what we're really asking is a bottom line, you know, to add 11,300 to the conservation agent request, and then that would bring the bottom number from 63 to $74,756.
But we also estimate that we would bring in 5,000 to 7,000 in local fees, so we think at the end of the day, it would probably only bring up 4,000 or so for that budget.
Well, actually, it would that would pay for any difference over last year's.
Yeah.
That would compensate. So in a way, you know, it's kind of confusing, but in a way, it's still the same as last year's budget because we're going to be bringing in money, and that's anticipated. You know, we can't say it, but seeing what's been happening, we're inundated, and you know, with filings. I think we have how many new filings just this week?
Well, for this month, we have 5 new. Our agenda's 3 pages long. We have, I think, 9 hearings, probably 7 or 8 violations, other matters. So.
You know, and all these require field work for Lisa to go out, and sometimes one of us, if we can make it, and we have to be, you know, we're going to be protective of Lisa too if she goes out on a site somewhere that there isn't a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had them.
Yeah, all sorts of job hazards out there, but in any case, I mean, I just wanted to kind of bring to you guys' attention that, you know, we've got the same, if not the exact, if not, it's different, but the Board of Health reviews, you know, septics, but we're reviewing the whole project, you know, not just the septic. They have a part-time agent, but they have a full-time administrator in the office, you know, to answer questions, answer calls. You know, I'm juggling all that from the field as well. It's just a lot, so.
Okay, now I'm going to assume that
I'm
you've
also
got...
going to stormwater meetings as part of my job. I'm doing perk review, location reviews. I'm going to the PACT meetings. Anyway. Sorry.
Okay, can I assume that you did get my letter of request to do an additional 5 hours? That was dated March 3rd, which was on our February voting.
So that was gonna be my question. Through this budget process, have you guys discussed with any of them increase in the hours?
Yeah, we talked to Ralph.
Yeah,
So yeah, he did copy you guys on the letter,
I'm on an email today from Serena that has this $11,250 per Serena. But, so typically an increase in hours is not something that comes to us, but it has to be approved. in the Selectmen.
Okay, well, then we're talking to both of you at the same time.
That's all right.
Because this letter also went to you, and I, you know,
March 3rd.
What?
Yeah, March 3rd, it was sent to both.
Okay, so we're asking for that, an increase in the budget.
Right.
With an increase of 5 hours a week.
Okay. Mark, Nicole, do you have any questions? Do you have anything? Peter, you guys all set, or?
Just from that standpoint, we'll wait to hear
Right.
what they have to say, but if there's, anybody else have any questions on anything else? And
No.
Okay,
All right, thank you, guys.
all right.
Thank you.
Through the chairs, I don't know if Jake Stebbins is on.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Is Doug still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Board of Health.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you, sir?
Thank you.
So I'm not sure if we got the actual numbers back from the waste collection disposal, because we were waiting for Borges. So that is really just an estimate.
Estimate.
What point in the process are you guys before just as far as negotiating those and the contracts?
I asked him, and he was still trying to get numbers from CMAS and their disposal fees.
through the chair, if I may, I had discussions with Mr. Borges. We gave him certain numbers, so he's working with CMAS, but another phone call for them. And, asking to see if we could get some solid numbers by the end of the month.
And who's gonna review that contract?
It would be myself and the board.
Thank you. Very good.
Are we jumping to waste collection?
It seems to have skipped over, but I just wanted to give an answer.
Oh, that was the first one I had.
Okay.
Sorry. Yours is in a different order. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We can do waste.
Oh, okay.
433.
I'm saying, I'm looking.
I was looking at the spreadsheet. So we were able to reduce the Board of Health significantly. With the part-time health agent, we estimated if he can only work 19 hours maximum a week. And at his rate, it only brings about 49.4 as a total. Oh, you don't?
They're two different line items.
Oh, all right.
433 and then, so if we could just pick one.
So let's finish with 433 first.
Okay. I'm gonna get a paper cut, guys.
Good thing you're a nurse.
Yeah.
All right, so on this one, we're waiting on Borges.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just assuming those numbers are gonna go up significantly.
Up from
Up from this?
the increase on here? Or
No,
up
no.
From last year?
Up from last year.
Okay.
Okay. So you're basing this increase on past performance, or?
Yeah, what the last increase was.
Ralph, are you getting a good feeling on that, or?
A pretty good feeling, preliminary discussions with Mr. Borges sort of has us in that range. I think when the CMAS is always a little bit of a wild card. So.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, do you have anything?
Hazmat disposal, that's not hazardous waste day, right? That's just.
No,
when
that
stuff
is
comes into
the
transfer station?
sharps, no, that's us. The sharps
Oh, okay.
container, when people bring in syringes, used needles. That is purchasing the containers for them to buy and disposing of them.
Okay.
We use,
You guys distribute the containers for people's sharps?
Mhm.
And do
We
you-
sell them.
Oh, you sell them?
Yeah.
All right, that was my next
Mhm.
question. I was like, I have never heard of that.
No,
Okay.
we
So you
sell them.
Right.
If they purchase them from us, they're free for disposal,
Okay.
so,
And does that cover the cost?
yeah.
Okay.
Mark, do you have anything?
I don't think so, thank you.
You guys anything for waste, disposal?
Okay, Board of Health,
Okay,
510?
we're on one page. We got lucky.
So the health agent, you said that,
Yeah, we were able to reduce that.
okay.
Because of the number of hours worked, or?
Yeah, because he can't go over 20 hours because that would be a benefited position. So we
Okay.
just, and he's, right now, probably the most he worked was 10. It's roughly like 7 hours, 6 hours. It's
Okay,
probably won't even come close to 19.
okay.
Is that something that is more of a springtime expense, or?
It gets busier in the spring when it's warmer and there's more construction going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, the Board of Health and the Conservation Commission, how do you, what's the difference between you're both going out on work sites?
Our health agent does do field inspections, so once the septic system is approved, he goes out and he does all of the, open hole. He's out there 4 different times inspecting it, and then he does a final at the end. So
Okay.
that's his field work.
Is the Conservation Commission involved with that same?
No.
Okay.
No, she just, if I get a perk application, a percolation test,
Yep.
if it's around a 100-foot buffer zone, she gets notified because there's wetlands in the area, so she
Okay.
goes out and looks at it to make sure they're not going in her territory.
From wetlands aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to point out, 5115, if you look on the, it's actually listed as the FinCom recommendation with the 51027 was from the email is a corrected 2.5%.
Yes.
Ralph, the chairman and the members, are they considered a stipend?
Yes,
So why are they not cut in half like the others?
they, they should have been,
Okay.
on my recommendation.
And on his
On the
recommendation, they are, but
Other
they're
town
not.
administrator's recommendation.
Okay.
And how many members are on the Board of Health?
3.
Oh, chair and 2, okay.
On training, so you guys, it looks like you did not use any last year.
No, the health aid, we didn't have a health agent most
Well,
of the
now you have a
year.
health agent, and he works for another town full-time, so hopefully he's utilizing their
Yeah.
training budget and not so much ours. As
Yep.
well as you guys have that grant now that you should be able to pull some training money from.
Yeah.
What is for Board of Health, professional and technical?
We use that for IT.
IT.
We reduced that one a little bit. I think last year there was a few purchases that we used most of that money, but we were able to reduce it.
When you guys have an IT issue, would you use the same company as everybody else? Okay.
For mileage reimbursement for travel, do you guys try to use the town vehicle when you can?
Yeah. Well, I don't really go out, but Matt won't be using it either. So, I mean, when we did have a health agent, she did use it versus her own car.
So that's mostly from Matt to use for travel to inspections?
I think so. It was like used for if they had a training, they would use, if they had their car, they would go to the training and use that. So it hasn't been touched in a while.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
anything else, right?
No.
Mark, you all set? Okay. You
Is
guys
there
all
any
set?
question on Board of Health? No.
And for the chair and the members, do you need any special qualifications for these positions? No? Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Chief, you're up.
Good evening. Is everybody on the budget? So, so there was an email sent out today, to yourself, Mr. Vataco, myself, with some increases in the salary part, just because of the CBA, the SRO line, the full-time salary line. There was an increase also in that line, in the 5106 line, because the new hire has his bachelor's degree. So there was with the shift differential, there was an increase in that line. That was included in the email as well. 5108 line, there was a mess up on that too, with the SRO line. 5110, the admin salary was corrected, and then the buyback at 5155 for the admin buyout. And also in the email was the communications, but I'll get to that when we get to the communications budget.
Just to make sure I'm following it, the 5155, the 27 is the accurate?
On the admin, the 5155 increased town admission, let me see. Sure wrote the number down, huh?
Up to requested amount,
To
to
re-
the 39.
Yes, I'm sorry, yep. Yeah, because I don't think they realized she's projected to leave a year from June. She's gonna retire. And if you'd want me to start where we made some cuts, if I can read my small print here. 5580, we made some reductions there. I'm sorry, 5580. If I'm seeing that right, 5481, gasoline and fuel.
And that's down because gas is down?
No, we figured like if we could make some reduction in our part of the cutting back, that I started there. Just looking back to last year's fuel line, I didn't look at prices or anything because God knows they could go back up again. But I looked at the lines where I was frugal last year, and I tried to make the cuts in that area. So.
You can use those bikes.
Yes, we're gonna use our bikes. We're gonna be in the best shape ever. So gasoline and fuel is one of those. The print on my printout's really small here. The office supplies, I believe, is another area where we made some cuts also. Professional, let's see, equipment repairs and maintenance. We cut some money in that area as well. we're trying to apply for more grant money. Sometimes some of the grants that we look at are driven more towards bigger communities. There was a ballistic, like just for an example, there was a ballistic shield grant. It was the Brine grant. When I talked to the woman on the phone, she said that it was going to be a tough grant to apply for because Taunton had to go in with like Taunton, Fall River, New Bedford as partners to try to ramp up what they want to try to get the grant. So not to say they favor, but it's definitely, you know, where they have lower income, you know, there's more advantages. They have more advantages than we do. But we've been getting the safety traffic grant every year. Thankfully, we try to include some things in that community stuff. When we do the mock crash at the school, we put money in for that. You know, we do that in partnership with the fire department, of course, and a couple other events. But the highway traffic safety grant, I've tried to increase that to $30,000. I had false hopes a couple of years ago. So like, oh yeah, put in for it, you'll get the money. Nope, rejected. 20,000 seems to be the max what we get every year for that. Now, of course, we're looking at other grants as well too as they come out. I got my deputy and one of the sergeants actively doing grant stuff now, so to look at, you know, being able to save.
Nicole, do you have any questions? Mark?
I know traditionally your department tries to fund the police cruiser through a special article. I don't know if it's an annual or special.
So I did that for a special meeting in the fall, and it got tabled, so I didn't even attempt it right now for.
But that tells me you have a need, you know, because you put in. So my question is, can you fund that through your? I know you have an account for when you do details, when you use your detail cruisers, right?
Yeah, so the revolving account for that is just for maintenance, the way it's worded in that.
Do you generate enough revenue in that to maybe take on purchasing a new?
It hasn't gotten to that level, but that's what we're hopes to do, is I've looked at other communities, I think like Seekonk and a few others, when they get a significant amount of money, they try to buy their cruises from that line. But we haven't been that busy to even try to increase, to even see that amount go up in that account. But that's what that account was generated for, and the range account was to try to supplement costs for like ammo. So we try to use that range money for the ammo costs, like I had talked about this past week, and that's what the hopes are with that cruiser account.
Awesome.
Yes.
But you mentioned it's not worded in a way that would allow you to buy it. Was that something you consider amending?
Yes.
The wording on it?
Yes. So I guess I have to do that at the special town meeting. Is that the annual? Do I do that at the annual? I was told I think I have to do it at the special town to change the wording in it to be able to purchase. Because I was looking to do that with the range to be able to purchase firearms out of that instead of doing it out of the regular budget.
Oh, good.
So,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Ralph, maybe you know, because we usually have to renew a lot of the revolving accounts, so wouldn't that be more of an annual than a special?
You can, yeah, we could discuss it, you can do it
Can
at
I?
the annual.
Okay.
We have time, because the warrant's still open, and we could put that in, we could review that.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I misunderstood. Yeah, maybe it was my end, but I thought I had to do it at the annual, but I mean the special, but okay.
Special's not guaranteed, annual is.
It's true.
Chief, is I know deputy is a new line, is that position filled?
Yes, it is. So that was the former lieutenant line. We changed the language on it, basically just changed the heading of the job, and we made it deputy chief to make it more understandable for the public.
And within professional and technical, you've got the academy fees and new hire exams and all. Is that in case there's turnover?
Well, yeah, that's always been kind of like the case in case someone leaves, to have that money there. And I just read that the academy fees in the state went from like $3,000 per register now up to $6,000. There's a lot of chiefs upset about it.
So did the former lieutenant move from the full-time officers to the deputy chief line?
Yes, it's its own line, just like myself. And mainly also too because they're not within the CBA of the patrolmen's union with the sergeants as well.
Do the SROs, do they have a cruiser?
One picks one up at the station, and then the one that has the comfort dog has a cruiser assigned to him because of Okie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chief, you want to do communications while you're here?
Communications, yes, sir. So in the email today, also that I was referring to when I started on the police budget, 5106, the part-time salary was increased just because the again grants. We can't solely rely on grant money to be funded every year. Well, we have been lucky with an incentive grant to be able to pay for overtime for training, and to also pay for part-time employees' salaries and for their training as well. But that was put back up. I talked to Serena today, and Ralph, you were included in that email as well. So I guess it was all, we all agreed on that, just because that money can't be guaranteed on every single year.
When do you hear,
What's that?
when would you hear about next year's grant?
So we just got next year's grant in for, it's an incentive grant for $33,000. But there's also training money that's got to come out of that for their annual training. So I was like, I didn't want to run that line to its bare minimum either, because communications utilizes their part-time dispatchers more than we use our part-time officers, per se.
So any 26 grants you've heard about already?
So the $33,000 for the 26 grant, we just got notified we got that grant money for the year. But we put in for that in January, so we'll find out in January for FY27.
So that 33, that goes towards, the operators' salaries would go up by more?
So I didn't want to reduce the salary in the part-time salary line, just because in that incentive grant also pays for the full-time dispatchers training and overtime. So that $33,000, I mean, it's not a ton of money for when you're paying for training and other stuff out of that, and equipment as well.
So out of the two, we'll call it 300 just to make it a nice round number for part-time and full-time. It's really 330.
Yeah, it's a give or take, yeah.
All positions right now full?
For
Fire, police and communication?
yes, there's four full-time dispatchers. One full-time dispatcher is projected to leave September 5th of this year. And then hopefully one of my part-time dispatchers that have been there will, step up there. I mean, obviously I have to post a job for 30 days, but that's what the hopes are.
Otherwise, all of the police positions have been full.
So, Patrolman Ferrera's position was just filled with Mr. Lopes the last time, and there's still a vacancy there that we had talked about that we haven't filled, so.
That position is funded in the budget?
It is, yeah.
So how many full-time officers do you have?
Including
None.
myself and the deputy.
No, leave those.
Oh,
two out.
13.
13.
Correct.
Okay. And then how many reserves do you have? More or less.
4, 5.
Okay. And then you have,
Have specials,
yeah,
so I have 4 specials,
okay.
which are retired law enforcement.
Right, okay.
So the SRO, the reserves and the specials don't obviously receive any benefit. They're just per diem,
Okay.
call it will. We try to use the reserve officers for filling for training, try to keep the overtime costs down, try to keep the overtime line down.
Okay.
But they have full-time jobs as well.
Yeah.
A few of them are Taunton firefighters, so we try to catch them on their days off, but it doesn't always work.
Right, okay. Thank you.
That's why you see Sergeant Dutra around, so.
Yes, exactly. He's been getting lucky.
I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead, Doug.
So, we have our range in town, and I know that we, can make revenue from having our, some of the neighboring towns use it from time to time. As a revenue-raising idea, have you considered having a couple times a month a public range night where, if you wanted to pay a fee to be able to use it, to be able to shoot there when you guys aren't using it, and it's outside of those hours that we are trying to avoid?
Hey Doug, my house is like 6 houses down from
So-
that. I don't need any extra.
Yeah. So I just tried bringing in another agency to utilize it because their range had closed and it didn't. I took it off the table because of extra dates. Just right now aren't good. So that was put on the back burner for now.
Okay, I just thought of it as a way to raise a little revenue to help get the car, just another source.
Thank you.
I think there'd be quite a few firearms owners like myself that may be interested in being able to use the range.
Doug, we just went through a month of the neighbors complaining about the noise, and some of that was brought on by the fact that Somerset was going to come on board. But the people who live in that neighborhood who have to put up with that sound were very much against that. So the selectmen decided that we were not going to go down that avenue. So not to shut you off at all, but it is a possibility that we don't want to consider.
And the chief pulled it before.
Right.
Yeah.
Just one more question.
Yes.
For you.
Yes, sir.
The unfilled position, what would the normal range of salary be on?
Between 60 and 68, depending degree.
And that doesn't include benefits?
Right. So, well, no, that would be with benefits.
Oh, all right.
That would be with benefits.
That would be, the employee would have benefits, but that wouldn't be the cost to the town for the benefits.
I was gonna say health
Like
insurance.
healthcare.
Well, yeah.
Okay, pension.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's all
If
sorry.
I may, for just quick clarification on the communications, I had town administrator's recommendation was approximately, let's call it even numbers, 270,000. We since understanding the grants, we put it back up to the 300. It's not 330. It's back up to the 300. What the chief had originally put in. We thought we could shave it off a little bit because we had a grant discussion, but we had further information.
Yeah, so the 253 and 42, and out of that, we received a grant for 30. Not all that's gonna go to payroll, but.
Right, yeah, so that's why I had put in, we thought it did.
Yeah.
We found out.
It's more
Yeah.
towards education.
Right,
Training.
it's towards the salary and education and training, so we're comfortable with keeping the chief.
And there's also the recorder in communications. Every city and town is going to be reliable for purchasing their own recorder because the company that does 911 now is not going to be maintaining those recorders. So we're going to be eventually, within the next year or two, to be, purchase our own. So I'm waiting on a quote on that as well, too. So there's kind of like some things on the horizon that we have to. Like this week, I just replaced 2 computers out there as well. So definitely, like we were talking before, like trying to maintain and not fall behind the 8 ball.
What's your guess on the recorder? Just pick a number.
Is it a big
That's why I'm asking.
car what? Car
I would say a few grand. I'd say a few $1,000s, not tens of thousands of dollars.
okay.
Yeah.
Not like a subscription.
No. It'd be a few thousand if I were to guess. Say maybe between 4 and 6.
Okay.
The server.
Yeah, pretty much.
All set?
Thank you.
Chief.
How many hours is Stacy?
35.
Yeah, control, I know, Stacy.
Well, that's sort of wrong, but yes. That's not what they pay for, is 35, but I'm still on all three of them.
Yes, okay.
So the only thing I can add to this as far as the ACO budget goes is that on the 5,300 animal health and welfare, print's so small on this, I'm trying to find the amount of this.
Stacy, you just here for moral support?
She has questions.
She was hoping to get a little bit more in that line on, when I had talked to her in the beginning, just because the increase in neutering and spading and, the animals that we have to try to, we have to service by law. She said there's been a bigger, I don't know, do you want to speak about?
I can attest to that for her. I have no problem with understanding that.
Of course, just like everything, costs go up. A normal spay or neuter, depending on the size of the dog, can run anywhere from $700 to $2,000. I have a dog that I placed in a house, doing great. I had her ultrasound at Bristol Aggie. Bristol Aggie's been great for me, but they don't do everything, so I still have to have another vet. Ultrasound, didn't see anything. We thought she had already been spayed. Well, now she's in heat. So now I have to have her spayed. She's an older dog, so it's going to cost anywhere from $1,500 to $2,600, depending on if they just do a spay or if they have to do an exploratory, because there's really nothing there, and we have to find out why she's really in heat. So that will wipe out my budget this year. I will be done as of that bill comes in. I will not have anything else in my budget if it's $2,600.
Why are we responsible for spaying and neutering?
Because that's the state of Massachusetts requires us to spay and neuter anything that leaves our facility, have a heartworm test, and have blood work to make sure they're okay. And we're also supposed to behavior test them all by the law.
Is there a fee for adopting an animal through us?
Yeah, it's $150. It doesn't,
Yeah,
we
it
couldn't,
doesn't touch it,
right,
yeah.
we couldn't recover everything that we need to do, what we need to do. There's not a way.
An older dog.
An older, it was a,
How did she become your responsibility?
she was
Or
a
the
stray.
child's?
She was a stray. So she became my responsibility, and she was adopted out through me. I did my due diligence trying to figure out if she was spayed or not, because I wasn't going to open her up because she was a little bully breed, and she has some breathing issues, so I wasn't going to open her up unless I had to. And now we have to because she came into heat, even though we didn't see anything in there. So I did my due diligence. And as I said, Bristol Aggie's been great. They do cat spays and neuters. They're now neutering dogs. They prefer not to do dog spays. Dog spays are a big cost. They used to be $400 or $500. Now we're talking minimum $1,000. So
And if they're older, mature, and bigger, it's even more because of
Correct.
the risk.
Right, because of the risk.
Yeah.
And this, unfortunately, this little bully breed's not only older, but she's blind and deaf too, so,
Oh,
yeah.
what a thing.
So,
So
she,
even a euthanasia is, you know, if that's the only option that she has, those are not even cheap anymore.
no, they're not. No.
Is there anybody other than Bristol Aggie that's willing to contract with you to give you a discount?
I use Dighton Veterinary, they're very good.
Okay,
But they only do cat spays and neuters, they don't do dogs. I have to go out for dogs.
so that is a true statement. then.
It is a true statement. I have to go out for dogs. They do little tiny ones, but I don't usually get the little puppies.
Right.
I get the 5 or 6 year old dogs that haven't been spayed or neutered, and it's a lot more risky and everything. And unfortunately, no matter how much you wheel and deal, I mean, Vitality, I use them sometimes, but they were $1,000 to do Oki. They were over $1,000.
So how does it work as far as, let's say you catch a stray and you scan for the chip?
No chip.
No, okay, let's say if they have a chip though, but then you get no response from the owner.
Well,
How
with
does that
chips, I call the company tells me who it's registered to.
work? Right,
I'm going to be very honest, 50% of them aren't registered to the owners at this point. They're registered to the breeder
yeah,
or the other shelter that had them,
right,
which is good because I always tell the story. My son's dog came through me to go out to Las Vegas, and I get a call from Las Vegas asking me, this chip comes to this dog, and I'm thinking, I said, by any chance there's a German short-hair pointer that stands about this? And he goes, yeah. I said, that's my son's dog. So I do call shelters if they go back to shelters, or I've called breeders, and breeders goes, yes, I sold that dog to so-and-so. So I do check for chips. Dogs nowadays, younger dogs have them more than the older dogs do, because breeders and shelters are putting them in before they leave.
yeah. And then what about as far as supplies for like, that you need there at the holding area?
Sometimes I get donations.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Sometimes I don't. Unfortunately, it seems like, and this is going to sound awful, the dogs that I get aren't easy dogs to have. Meaning they have skin issues or digestive issues, so you can't just go and get something off the shelf. You have to get a limited diet or whatever. So sometimes it's hard to find donations in that. Bay State's usually pretty good about giving me some kind of program, but I go in there and I go, oh, no, don't have that dog anymore. I need this kind of dog food. So it is tough to get that kind of stuff. Cats are easy. Cat food and little kitty litter is always easy because that's usually pretty basic. But the dogs are where we end up with the most cost, I think.
I'll keep that in mind for the dog food.
You guys have anything else?
No.
That was eye-opening. Next time I see a stray animal, I'm gonna be like, don't look at it.
Well, unfortunately, why do we get stray animals? Because people don't want to pay for
The cost, yeah.
whatever's going on with that dog.
Right.
And that's why we get stray animals.
We actually put a camera outside the
The shelter. Because I've had
to-
things dropped off at the shelter.
Good idea though.
Yep.
Yeah. They shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Nope, but people do.
Yeah.
So, I have a question.
Sure.
Building repair and maintenance, $500. We haven't expended any this year. Do you expect to expend any from that account?
I didn't know that was even a line because I thought that went under the town.
We're gonna definitely power wash the
Well,
building.
yes, we have to
Yeah,
power wash
The building has
those.
to be cleaned up this year, so I'm gonna be spending a little bit out of that this year.
For this year? So I see that for next year's budget too, and that was the same reason. Do you think that'll be an annual thing? or-
Yes.
Yeah. Do you power wash like the inside too, like the?
No, just the outside, because the outside looks really,
It's green.
right, because of the way everything falls onto the front siding. The inside, it's really kind of hard to power wash because there's no drains inside.
Right.
I do the best I can to keep it as clean as possible. So,
And then for, we haven't expended anything from, let me just see. 5315 contractual disposal. I think that was final gift.
Yes, that is final gift. We haven't emptied the freezer this year, I don't think. Not very much in the freezer. I'm trying to make that less and less. I have the highway department pick it up, because once they pick it up, they can compost. If I pick it up, I have to send it to final gift.
Okay.
So they pick up a lot of roadkill because.
So it's not like a yearly cost? It's just
No, it's every time they pick it up. So if my freezer's full, it could be more than if I only have 2 or 3 things in it.
Okay. Your vehicle maintenance, like the sticker, or if it needs tires or whatever, is that all through the highway department budget?
Yes, they do. No, it's through my budget, but the highway department does it.
What line is that in your budget?
Vehicle maintenance.
260.
5260. I just had tires put on my car, my truck, my van.
Tires, you got a sticker
Oh,
down.
I see that.
I need to get a sticker in April, but they need to replace that mirror before I can get the sticker.
Ollie's law kind of was signed into law, and that changed the way, I know it changed a lot probably for your role. I don't know much about it, but I know one of the talking points is kennel licenses are no longer, you need to license every dog individually.
Well,
instead of-
yes, there's still kennel licenses, and we can still keep kennel licenses. Kennel licenses are different now in the fact that if you have just 4 dogs, yes, you have to register every dog, but it's still under a kennel license. We need to go after those people that are grooming, training, our veterinarians that keep dogs overnight, those kinds of places, because that's really what Ollie's Law is all about because of the tragedy that they had. And come to find out, we have a groomer here that doesn't have a business license or anything, but they need to be inspected more than once a year. So their prices will be different than the regular kennel licenses. We've already talked about that. Because right now I just inspect once a year, because most of my kennel licenses are people that have 4 or more dogs in their house. Now with this, I'm going to have to go at least 2 to 3 times a year. I would say 3 times a year, just to make sure everything's still the same as it is when we
So
start.
that's why I asked. So does this budget reflect you
No.
to be able to do that?
No, because this is something brand new.
Are you working to update, I know a lot of surrounding communities are working to update their bylaws to reflect the new
We are.
requirements of all these laws?
We are writing a new bylaw for this for June.
Are you planning on updating your budget to reflect the needs, or are you gonna put it in an article for town meeting?
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, Bristol Aggie's been good. They're running clinics for us. We're doing a rabies clinic, which is nice. But even Bristol Aggie's going to be inspected differently.
Awesome. Thank you. My last question, I know you have the chief stand up. Do you prepare your budget, or does the chief prepare?
We talk about it, but
We sit there and talk about what we have and, where we'd like to go, and that was the main thing, was the animal welfare line was pretty much the thing we were looking at the most this year. She's
yeah,
concerned
I
about
will
going
go
through
over
that.
my budget
Yeah.
in health and welfare this year. I know I will.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
One more question. So you have to do these inspections?
Yes.
Are the businesses responsible for the cost?
We don't charge them at this point. They have to get, like, if they need a business license, they'll get that they have to do that, and they have to get the kennel license. We haven't done that, because it's part of my job. I mean, I get paid to go, and I already in my budget get paid for that. So it's never been separate.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, maybe someone's gotta pay you.
Right.
Right now, the taxes are paying you. So if the service is being rendered, these inspections, that allow them to be in business, maybe they should be picked up by the cost of the owner.
No different than a building department
Right.
inspection
Right.
or
The cost of business.
weights and measures.
So that's never been discussed, because it's always just been part of what I do. But now,
But again, as you're now having to do more inspections.
yeah, I was going to say, now there's more.
State mandates or
Right.
law mandates it. Yeah, we can't expect to just be taking on those expenses ourselves when
Right.
it's the price of doing business.
Well, that's an argument we have with trash.
Stacy, based on that feedback, is that something you'd be willing to review and?
Oh, yes, it's something we can talk about. It's just, as I said, it's never been something, it's always been, I do my state inspections, and it's part of my salary, so.
Thank you.
Right, especially if she's saying she may need more hours now with the additional inspections. we'll need somewhere to put
Absolutely.
for those dollars.
That would make sense with the new law and working on a new bylaw, that would make sense to include that, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, you guys. Good night.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, John.
I have a question.
Yes, Doug?
Is there a way, as I heard you talk about the expense that we incur to spay and neuter these animals and other care that they might need when they come into your control? Is there any way that we can collect a fine or a expense or a fee from the people who either wrongly or rightly abandon these animals, or is there any way to recover money from the person who turns them into us?
Well, I'm going to tell you, all my strays are not turn-ins. And I'm very honest, I don't like to take turn-ins because it ends up costing the town a lot of money, because they tell you, oh, it's just because I can't have the dog anymore. And the dog comes into your shelter and it bites and it's got a lot of sickness and that kind of stuff, and we have to get all that figured out before we can adopt it out or euthanize it if that's the case. All my strays that come in are people that I have no idea where the dog belongs. You find it on the road, you do the microchip thing, there's no microchip, and nobody comes in and says, oh, that's my dog. If they've turned it out, I mean, yes, a lot of people do go, oh, you have my dog, I'm going to come and get it, but not if it's a true stray.
But if we do find out that somebody, and I'm going to use the word illegally, even if it's not probably proper, just abandons the dog, and we find out who it is there a fine or a fee that we can collect to help offset the cost?
There's a few things. There can be a fine, and it can be legal. They can be given a ticket because it is illegal to drop off a dog and abandon a dog. It's called abandonment, and we can go after them legally.
And do we collect any fees for that?
You can. Have I? No, because I haven't had that problem. Because as I said, all the dogs that I pick up, I have no idea where they come from. I can try to guess, but
Do you have tickets available for like abandonments or leash law or?
I do have tickets available for leash law violations and that kind of stuff. Yes.
Awesome.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, you guys.
Bye, take care, bye. Thank you.
Hi, G.
Good evening. I'm not sure what do we start with? Fire, ambulance, emergency management?
Starting with fire, 220. Then ambulance, and then the emergency preparedness.
Okay, so you'll see I cut through the budget, trying to make up the request for the $50,000 cut that I had. I was able to do that. I took from places that I felt like I could, but I really don't feel like I can anywhere. But I did what I was asked, and in the lines that I didn't, it was because there's increase in fees or other obligations to those lines.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
If I may mention, Chief, you also had come to me about opioid funds, looking
Correct.
to use that for something that you needed as well. So
Yeah.
that was appreciated that you looked outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, if there's money there that's available, it won't cover the whole cost, but it might help offset some of it, and that cost would probably come from the ambulance revenues anyway. But if we can save a little bit, why not?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, those funds are earmarked. If we hit an earmark, we should use them.
Right. I just, we just have to figure out what I need to purchase qualifies, that's all. The monitors, for the two EKG monitors for the ambulance are coming to end of life, and they're gonna stop providing parts to fix them, and it's really a priority to have on the ambulance, so.
Yeah. So that probably brings me to my question for you. Between supplies and maintenance, I know we always ask you to make sure that you've got enough.
You always do, yeah. That's a tough answer this year. Currently right now, my 2 repair lines, my ambulance repair line, I'm currently in the negative, and we're not through the fiscal year yet. And the fire repair line, I have, where is it right here? I have about $1,500 left in that line, and I still have state inspections to do and all that kind of stuff. So, to say that I'm concerned is, as I've said to Ralph, he's sick of me here saying it, is an understatement. I have an aging fleet. The newest truck that I have is engine 3 that was just delivered last July after being ordered before COVID. The newest truck that I have is a 2009. So it's that, and then it goes down from there to a 2002, a 2000. All these trucks are going to start to need things, and that comes with a price, as everybody knows, with inflation and all that stuff. The parts, the labor is all through the roof. So, but I did what I could do to try to make it right.
So realistically, in 23, 24, 25, and are already, 23, 24, and 25, we've already spent 28, 29, and 31,000.
Mm-hmm.
So 16 doesn't seem reasonable.
I'm on board.
I know there's a certain point that a truck ages out. You can't certify it. Are any of the older trucks getting to that point?
No.
No.
So all the trucks are tested annually. That's part of the cost of operation and maintenance. The pumps are tested annually. Ground lighters are tested annually. All the proper safety inspections are all done, and everything continues to certify. One thing I'll say about my personnel is that they take pride in the vehicles that we have. They're very well maintained, and when Mark down the highway department will do everything and anything he can within his power, but there's a lot of stuff that's just outside of his training as far as specialty stuff with the pumps and generators and stuff like that just he can't do, so it ends up having to go to a repair shop.
With an aging fleet, we're not going to see maintenance bills going down.
No.
The 5106, that's grayed out because Serena's still looking into that line. Is that?
Yes, I believe her and I just need to sit down, and she has some questions about my numbers. That's all. Just because there's some funky stuff in the new CBA that we need to just sit down together and make sure we match.
Nicole, do you have anything else? No. Mark, do you?
I just have an observation. I think looking at the zero-based budgets, some departments do them in different levels of detail, and I think it's by far one of the most. You give us a lot of detail, and therefore it's one of the most transparent. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Are you still seeing a lag between purchase time or between placing an order and receiving?
So currently, if you look at on this one, the 5870, and there's you'll see that there's what is it, 17,000 currently for this year. That's because I have $16,000 worth of gear on order. So, fire gear has a life, 10 years. It's not NFPA compliant, needs to be taken out of service. So they don't keep it on the shelf. So when I order gear, it takes between 3 and 4 months to make a set of gear and receive it. So it's on order. I'm just waiting for delivery.
Anybody else?
And
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm extremely thankful to the chief, and chief, I never tire of you saying I need more money, because I know you do. So we gave him a tough task, and I appreciate when he came to us, and we realized it was too difficult, so, that was too difficult. He came with 50,000 below, so, Serena and I, we were looking at it, how can we add back? But I know, we added back on the replacement equipment, 5870, $9,000, and on the ambulance side, fire rescue in 5850, $11,000. But we're taking that from the ambulance fund. We had designated $475,000. That 20,000 from the ambulance fund to relieve some pressure from the fire
How
department.
much is in the ambulance fund?
Currently, I'm not sure what the total is right now. It collects around $650,000 a year. But we have $475,000 now being taken for this, and then we have another ambulance payment that'll be due.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind.
105?
Yeah. That'll be usually we've been doing it in the fall because the payments, I think that payment's due in January.
Okay. So that would, where the 5870, then that would put the replacement equipment at the level.
We try to go back to the previous year's level.
Which
It's still,
part of the chief's plan on replacing keep turning the equipment as opposed to buying everything.
Right, so in our conversation, I think Ralph recognized my initiative to try to keep the gear replacement on a, annual basis, so that way I'm not coming to the town with looking for 30 sets of gear for the whole department and having a $400,000 price tag attached to it. If I can keep it rotating like I have been over the last several years, everybody's gear doesn't expire all at the same time. And they all have to have a second set of gear, so that way we can decancer it and dry it and all that. So
We've got to keep track of.
I keep track of all the dates.
Do you?
Yeah, it's fun.
Any questions on 220?
No.
299, chief. Emergency preparedness.
You don't want to do 231s, basically the same as fire. You want to go over anything there?
I just assumed we were. The ambulance?
Basically the same thing, as long as nobody else.
Ask the same question here between medical supplies and ambulance equipment repairs. Can we cut those?
So
50, 550, 5240.
Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong. The medical supply is the medical supply line. Is that what you're speaking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the 5550 is going to be that'll be a tight one, because if you look right now, I'm in March and I'm down to $7,000, but we'll try to make it work. My only maybe thought to that would be is if the medical supply lines is specifically ambulance supplies. If we had to at a special, I could ask for a transfer from the ambulance fund. It would be the only consideration maybe.
Okay.
Because that is specifically bandages, Band-Aids, gauze, cling, AED pads, batteries for AEDs, stuff like that. That all comes from that line.
Or is it possible anything in there could also be paid for with the opioid money?
I'm still trying to educate myself on the opioid monies. I don't know what is eligible.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, they're gonna make
They
you
haven't
jump
made.
through.
Yeah, and now and then they're annoyed that nobody's using it, and I'm like, yeah, because nobody understands it.
Right,
It's,
right.
It has
Yeah.
a direct correlation to opioid use, opioid education, and saving, So, we don't have, I don't know the number, but it's not we're not a town with a big
Yeah.
No.
opioid
Yeah.
number.
No, I
I'm
think-
sure they need Band-Aids. Like, they've used Band-Aids in their life.
Is there a busy time for the ambulance service? Like, is winter busier because of?
No, I wish I could predict it, but there's really not. Like, there's times where we'll go and we won't roll a wheel for 2 days, and then the next day we have 7 runs in an 8-hour shift.
No rhyme or reason.
No rhyme or reason at all. We tried to look at data to see, what day of the week's busier, what time. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it. The whole week is covered with runs when you play out the whole year. Kind of crazy.
Yes, full moon.
Our runs are all up. I'll say that. Like, we've gone up, I think, 4% from last year in runs. We're doing right just under 1,000 runs a year, which is a lot for us. I think when I took over as chief, we were doing around 600 or 700 runs.
Wow.
So the ambulance runs are up, as are the fire calls. So we'll see.
We're an aging community, as Bella was saying. I mean,
Yeah, and to look at developments like Hunters Hill, where we're putting in 55 and older, and we're going to Hunters Hill quite a bit now. Never mind adding another 50 homes or whatever's going in up there. That's going to be another burden on us, so to speak.
all right.
Anybody else any questions on ambulance?
No. No, I'm sorry.
You got anything, Doug? He keeps surprising us, and he startles
No,
me.
I'm all set.
So emergency preparedness, just in good faith, I just made some cuts there to try to save a little bit of money. Really, the majority of this money goes towards the Code Red emergency notification system. So that's around, I think it just went up, it's around $3,200 a year. And then the rest of it goes towards stuff that we use in emergencies, pumps, lighting, cones, barriers, stuff like that. So when we're out chasing limbs down in the roadway, we have stuff to block roads off, along with Tom Ferry, who also utilizes the equipment. He has access to all of it, so he knows that he can go grab cones and barriers if he needs them.
Will that be affected at all by some of the, I know a lot of federal grants for these types of emergency response items?
So I get a grant every year from MEMA that also goes to funding a lot of that stuff also.
Okay, so that's not affected at this point?
No, nope.
Great.
Guys on emergency preparedness? Good.
No, we're good. Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night, too.
All right. Now go to the worst budget line of all.
Yeah.
I just put in for the, I think at that point, we were talking about a 10% drop, so I cut that. Nobody's used in-state travel in years.
I was just gonna ask you, where are you guys traveling?
I think I was probably the last one, and that was to Tri-County for training.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then dues, we have the MMA dues, which is less. It was 196 this year, so I cut it to the 225. And then the same with the reserve fund. I cut it I tried to do the 2.5%, even though it may not be the wisest place to do it, but to the 48.75, 750. Anybody have any questions on that?
Question, it might be a silly one. What's the reserve fund for, other than obviously reserve, but like,
It's really
it's
just-
just a small amount, so I was just,
Yeah, so yeah, the only thing the reserve fund is like Tom came in with the pin issue.
oh,
So we were
okay,
able to
like
do
things
that.
like that.
Jim has come in before with demo, where he ran out of demo money, but he had houses that needed to come down. We've made transfers out of that.
Okay,
Year end, I'm gonna guess we're probably gonna end up blowing through the rest of what's in there for this year. If we don't have really the transfers to, the other transfers to.
Just to give both boards an update, Serena and I have been running numbers. We added in an estimate on trash bags with the increased price. So based on my recommendations, which is a 50% reduction in stipends, we're looking at a plus side of $82,000. We're kind of, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll be finalizing the snow and ice budget. We think we plan for a deficit of 200,000. It looks like it'll be 150, so another 50. So I probably will make a recommendation, given that it's such a tight budget, looking at the numbers, we kind of want to be on the plus side of 100, but to put a little more into reserve fund transfer, just because it's going to be so tight this year. So I know we'll give you those updated numbers at the Selectmen, and I will be passing those updated numbers to you as they become available. I haven't factored in, hopefully a little bit of good news tonight from DR, so we'll factor in those numbers, and pretty much Crystal Aggie is the same number they've been giving us since December. So then how they're going.
From an expense standpoint, are we still tracking that we're not gonna have transfers within, so we might be using the reserve fund for?
That's what I'm thinking to put some money in there, yeah.
Okay. From our standpoint, we meet, and I guess that's good time to announce this. Doug, then our next meeting is going to be April 16th after tonight, and it'll be at the Council on Aging, 6 o'clock. I believe that's a Wednesday, April 16th. Yeah.
I will be back.
You'll be back? Right now, Serena's set aside the 16th. She's looking for a place for the 17th if we need it. We may not need it. It's just that meeting will be to go through and make our preliminary recommendations. And then at some point, probably the first week of May, we'll probably end up having a joint meeting to go over any differences. So for that April 16th, if we could have like a really good revenue number for next year, and I know you've got some updates to do based on that email that went out today.
Yeah. The number I gave you is included those updates, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 82 is including the information from the case.
Okay.
So, yeah, so
Okay.
I double checked with Serena, I said that's including this, she goes, yes, I said, okay.
So forgetting the school, that would probably come into play next week. How much free cash are you planning on using for the budget next year?
471,000.
Still?
Oh my God.
Still.
Okay. So the only reason that we even agreed to 200,000 last year was because there was a plan that we had the November, or that there was the plan to go out to vote on the debt exclusion. Mm-hmm. And then if the debt exclusion failed, that Mike had a plan as to where cuts would come from starting in January. So I can only speak for myself, but I wouldn't be comfortable supporting a budget that's $470,000 of free cash that we know is not sustainable, especially without a plan. So maybe we could have a plan
We could
for
plan,
March,
but, yeah,
April 16th too.
Put a plan together. So, I know, it's not the best thing to do, but to keep the services we have, that's what we're looking at. So, I spoke with the department heads, and we know fiscal year 27, we're looking at serious service, and we'll be looking at serious service and personnel reductions as a result, because there's no expectation of the continuous use of free cash.
So we go to borrow free cash, do we put a hiring freeze on?
That would be, we have a hiring memo now, so we're hoping going through attrition. That's step number one. We have a few people, as was indicated during these budget talks, that should be retiring in fiscal year 26. So we'll look at that, and we'll see what that correlates to, and then we have to hold the line that that's it. No new hires, even for public safety as well.
Is the only unfilled position in the town right now the one police officer, or are there other unfilled positions?
I believe that's the only
That's
unfilled
it.
position that's there.
We did, a lot of unions had their contract negotiations. Have we looked at, what's the split on health insurance?
75-25.
Again, the contracts are just, is that, has that come up as an option of maybe going 70-30, or?
It
It would have to be negotiated.
The short answer is yes, and it would be require renegotiation, yes.
Yes. Okay.
It was tough to get that through to begin with.
I have no doubt.
We
But-
we went through 3 votes, 4 votes before we got an approval on the budget, on the contract. Or you weren't here for both of them, not for the circle. And it was difficult to get through.
I have no doubt. But, as, the percent increases of these items
Yeah.
keep going up.
There might be no increases for wages. But it goes out to vote and they turn it down, and they'd rather have a position cut because it doesn't affect me if somebody else gets cut.
Well, that's understandable, but if the town needs a position.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's no negotiations going on right now?
Just the teachers.
No, the town,
Well,
highway department.
Highway.
Highways. Yes.
True south, next month.
Yes, next week. Yeah.
Just starting next week?
As a percentage, how far off are we with that, what was it, 475,000 that we could potentially have to support outside of the budget? What percent of our total budget is that number?
1.7? 1.6?
So, I mean, if we had an across-the-board, everybody's got to make their most important items list, and they've got to cut 1.7 from the least important, until we come up with a budget that eliminates that shortfall.
Except that 60% of it is from the schools who don't necessarily have to listen to us.
So, actually, we took in, the reduction would come from the people who came here today, which is about $8.9 million. Because, although we have a $28 million budget, we don't have really control over it, not even about $8.9 million.
Yeah, so Doug, better way to look at it, pull off the school, you've got roughly 9 million, so you're at about 5%.
So, other than school department, if we got 5% across the board, we've got to live with that number and make adjustments, although they're hard, and then we solve the deficit.
If it were that easy.
Yeah.
Right, they just cut heavily.
So then the other caveat to that is out of that 9, approximately 82% is payroll and 18% is expenses. So you're really talking payroll.
Okay. Union negotiated that, like the school, we can't touch it.
Say that again?
The salaries are negotiated by the union.
Correct.
And just like school, we can't touch it.
It's an individual salary can't be adjusted. It would have to be count.
Again, just to bring it back to what I first said last year, the larger overhead control was $8.8 million. This is the departments that were presented tonight, 8.97, and that's a 0.02% increase from last year. So, and you know, as you know, I asked from each one of them some cuts and eating to the bone, because a lot of it, again, as you know and understand, a lot of it is contractual agreements and salaries, and they squeeze it as much as they can.
Is the overtime part of the contractual agreement?
The rate would be.
The rate, yeah. Usage would be on a department by department
The rate I
basis.
could understand, but the usage is that's not.
It's not contractual, but, and the caveat to that is, especially with the fire and police department, they have force standards that they have to have so many firemen, and to backfill it, they do it for it.
And then is there a clerical union? And so does the clerical union, so if every department has a clerical person, they all fall under that same union, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
It may be coming up in a year or so. Clerical, maybe in a year, I think.
Yeah, I thought that one was just,
They
Yeah,
finished
they
last
just did it.
year.
They just,
Yeah.
clerical, fire, and police, just within 23, 24, and then 25 salary.
Oh, thank you. So when I first got on the board, the town administrator Mullen presented taking trash out of the town budget.
I was just thinking of trash.
Yeah, it was a very popular decision, I think, of the board at the time to keep it as is because it's a well-loved town service. However, I don't know how you guys feel, but it might be something worth reconsidering now, and just looking at the facts. Because just looking here,
Yes,
it's an $818,000 budget.
right.
And I think, I remember talking about at the time, my big question was if we pull it out of our budget as a town, someone has to send bills and someone has to monitor, because there was a way to opt out basically. Someone has to monitor that. But I think our circumstances have changed. So I don't know how you guys felt and.
I'm not following with the monitoring
That
and
was
opt
like
out.
where we got, so part of the proposal with it wasn't just,
because some people had their own dumpsters and they wouldn't want to pay for trash service, if I remember right.
right, so there was a way in the original proposal to opt out of getting a bill and then having it out of the budget. But then my question was, someone has to send those bills and someone has to monitor for compliance. Like if you opt out of this service, then I want to make sure you're not having someone have Fortress, whoever pick up your trash, so that would have a cost to it too, like
It's
those.
very difficult to
those things.
achieve.
I was just imagining there was no trash and then everyone.
That's another thing to
You have to,
consider as well.
you have to bring it to the transfer
It
station.
doesn't
Or the-
eliminate everything.
Yeah.
Because you still have that trash that has to be removed from the transfer station. So it's not like looking at it and saying, oh, let's save $800,000.
No.
You're looking at it and say, let's save $300,000,
If I may-
The
$200,000.
track, right, the
But you
route
have
through
a
town.
dumpster.
Right.
And
If
what's-
I may, if you
and
go
what's-
to the trash station, I apologize, you would create an enterprise fund. So
Right.
the sticker fee and the bag fees would cover that cost.
Yeah, well, an
So-
enterprise fund or going into the general budget doesn't really make much of it's not going to change the bottom line.
Well, you're taking out $800,000 from,
If you eliminate trash.
if you eliminate trash. But the enterprise fund it's a one-for-one coverage.
Right.
So it would reduce that fee.
And looking at the negative side to that, how many people are we gonna have that are gonna start dumping their trash in wooded areas? in
There's
town?
tons of communities that don't do trash, and they don't have that problem.
Right.
They said we would have this problem when we had the mattresses. There are not mattresses all over the street.
Right.
Any thought on privatizing?
So, I mean,
There's lots of
it,
communities that privatize, and, with privatizing, that, company can handle the building and everything else. So that's what they do anyways. So they can come in, they can give specific rates. Tell you the truth, I wouldn't mind having two companies coming in competing
Right.
and bring that price rate down. I don't know why the government has to throw your trash out.
It's nice when we have the money.
yeah.
Well,
For
exactly.
inconvenience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good, but
But it's very expensive. I like what you just said there, because it does create that opportunity for competition. It does create the opportunity for you to shop around and to contract with your own trash company that you pick. It's like when you have your oil delivered, there's how many oil companies that deliver oil to people's homes? And you can shop out for the lower cost. Why can't we do that with trash? That would eliminate, even if it half the cost of the town, that makes up that money we're looking to.
Right, someplace where. we
Well,
could get
it would,
sensible amount.
from a budget standpoint, it would eliminate all of it, because it would remove the 800,000. Then it's just a matter of how it's, whether there's an enterprise fund set up so that it is still being billed through the town, or everybody's on their own and has
Yeah,
to.
why not? Why do we have to bill it through the town? Why can't everyone have to figure it out on their own?
So it sounds like the board had an appetite for us to look at it again.
Certainly, we as selectmen, but there is a trash committee that has looked at it. And one of the things that came out of there was people were not ready to eliminate trash pickup. You went through, you have the senior citizen who has hard enough time dragging the trash out to the street. Now you're gonna ask them to bring it to a transfer station? Yes, other communities do it, and Dayton doesn't, but that's one of the things that people like about Dayton. Now, if you wanna change it, we can change it, and chips fall where they may.
At this point, I'm not advocating either way. I'm just
Yeah.
advocating just to put it back on the table,
Right.
I guess.
Sure.
I'm not free. That's maybe not the way we want to go. Maybe
Right.
it'd be nice to spur some public input and some public
Absolutely.
comments on it as well. And here, we're all better informed on the impacts of our decisions now. We have a $471,000 shortfall. So it'd be
That'll
interesting to hear
change
what
some
the
minds.
public has to
Yeah.
say. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And what the alternative is, if we don't do trash, then X, Y, and Z.
You can either take it to the
Gonna
transfer
happen.
station or hire someone.
Right.
What else they would possibly lose, because something has to
Right.
go.
If we don't want a debt exclusion, we don't want an override, here are our choices. We can do something with trash, whether it be an enterprise fund or something else. We can start making cuts, but you can't still buy eggs for $3 a dozen.
Right. Right, something's gotta give. Something sizable has to give.
Yeah.
If you guys can talk about that, that would be great.
Yeah,
We're gonna have no chickens.
we'll get back to you.
Feed his throat.
All right, motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor? Aye.